Welcome to Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football. My name is Wes, and I'd like to invite you to join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news from around the league, make predictions for the upcoming games, and much, much more. What's up, everybody? It's Wes. We have reached that time of year. It is cold outside. It's going to get much colder here very soon. If you've looked at the forecast pretty much across the country. I've already taken the kids to look at Christmas lights. My daughter is loving the chance to make hot chocolate for everyone here lately. Football's been on, and it's about to be on with much more frequency as bowl season is upon us. And we will preview each and every SEC bowl game in full, except for Florida, who's already played and well. Anyway, Jesse,
your play's a very strong word there, Wes.
Jesse, welcome. It's great to see you. Are you ready for Christmas?
I am. I am a little apprehensive about the Sugar Bowl, and I'm hoping that the juju has changed and that we fare a little better than we have in years past.
I hear you. Matt, how are you, my friend? Have you been good this year?
Absolutely not. You know, there's no way that I'm getting anything good for Christmas. It will be nothing but coal at the Fortson household. Because if anything, my Heisman rant last time we recorded definitely got me on the naughty list. So yeah.
I hear you. Well, we will get into the bowl game previews very soon. But first, let's talk about some news and a dedication. As most of you know, Coach Mike Leach passed away Monday night, December 12th, after complications to a heart condition. The memorial service was actually today as we record at 2:00 at Humphrey Coliseum on campus at Mississippi State. He was one of our absolute favorite personalities to discuss, and we dedicate this bowl preview episode to him. I think that's only appropriate. So I know we didn't know Mike Leach personally, but I don't know any other coach outside of the SEC that we followed quite like him before he got to Mississippi State. I don't know any other coach who we celebrated with the same excitement being hired into the SEC. And if you guys recall, we played the Pirates of the Caribbean theme that episode for that announcement. And he truly reminded us that though the game is to be taken seriously, and he certainly did, it's also possible to have fun at the same time and maybe even have a laugh or two in the process. So in that spirit, I think we are going to do a montage here of Mike Leach discussing a hypothetical Pac-12 mascot battle royale, Bigfoot, aliens, Halloween candy, and his very strong feelings on weddings.
Well, first of all, what kind of mythical powers does a Sun Devil have? We've got to consider that. I'm going to say the Wildcat's out. The Trojan, does he have a horse or is he on foot? Does he have a bow and arrow or just his sword? The Bruin, definitely formidable. Another bear up there at Cal. The tree, I imagine that tree's going to get chopped down, unless we're going to go with the bird and somebody might get pecked or something. I don't know. And then the duck might lose interest and just fly away and get out of there, which may be good advice under the circumstances. The husky, no chance. The beaver, well, we'll see how long that beaver can hold his breath. The ute, again, we're back to, is he on horseback? Does he have a bow and arrow? Did he trade for a rifle? I mean, you know, because if that ute's got a rifle, there's some definite problems. And, you know, you'd have to get one of those Harry Potter activists to read up on how you kill a Sun Devil, because there's a lot of outside stuff there. Just as far as a beast alone, a buffalo's going to be pretty hard to tangle with. I mean, a buffalo's utterly outstanding. Well, but Butch is going to have to be clear-minded and crafty. I mean, Butch will find a way. There's no question. The Coug will find a way. Clear-minded and crafty, a combination of stay out of harm's way and attack when you get your chances or your openings.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is. The reason I don't think there is because we've found bones of dinosaurs and everything else, but we haven't found bones that I've heard of Bigfoot. Aliens, I suspect there is, and I don't know that they're they're little green men, and I don't know that they're specifically in our galaxy. Why wouldn't God build other Earths and other places? Why only this one? You know? And even if you're an evolution guy and lightning striking mud and, you know, popping in, I mean, and then, well, they say, well, the notion of God is far-fetched. Oh, really? Striking mud and then light, you know, sparking out of there, and then it going like that? Well, I mean, well, that's just such an obvious, easy path to follow.
We talked about on the broadcast how you hate candy corn. What's your favorite Halloween?
Candy corn. I mean, I completely hate candy corn. When I was a kid, well, gummy bears, let's see. Gummy bears for sure.
Sour or regular?
The Haribo. It's got to be the Haribo ones. And then the other thing I like is when they used to have the sprees in a box. Outstanding. You have to go to the dollar store to find it, but I do. And then the latest, you know, there's still candy innovation, although a while back I found that Europe had better candy than we did overall, just because they have gummy everything. And then, you know, they have those Nerds clusters, which is new.
The gummy.
Yeah, which is good. The Nerds clusters is good. And then if you go chocolate, probably Almond Joy.
Love it. Hopefully you'll get some of that next week.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
I know you have strong thoughts on weddings. I'm in the middle of planning one right now. Do you have any advice for me?
Who are you marrying?
His name is Trevor.
Okay, yeah, well, I'll have to you set up a meeting and I'll talk to him. Okay, so where's Trevor from?
He's from Florida.
What does Trevor do for a living?
He works in sports as well, covers football.
He does what?
He covers football as well.
Really? Well, I don't know. We'll keep a close eye on it, but whatever you and Trevor decide, I would kind of keep it on the down low, which you failed to do that. Trevor was probably planning to, but you didn't. So go ahead and don't say anything else about it, but as soon as the season's over, or even an off week, go elope. Trust me on that. Go elope. Because basically every female in the family is going to terrorize you guys until it's over. Once it's over, I mean, they'll be upset for a few days, but it'll be over. And then, you know, you cruise along, have a happy marriage, have a happy life.
I'll pass along the message. Thanks, Coach. Congrats on the win.
Trevor, unless he's crazy, is totally on my side. And trust me on this. If Trevor doesn't have the sense to do that, tell him to call me, because, I mean, he needs to do. I've told all my kids, I'll give you $10,000 extra if you elope. So far, they haven't done it, but I would, too.
I'll have him call you.
Oh, Lord.
All
I am so
classics.
sad I won't get to write my letter when I decide to elope one day.
Right.
Have Mike Leach endorse it.
Yeah.
Well, he
Yeah.
really went all in on the candy situation, didn't he? And
The innovation.
just the analytical tear down of Pac-12 mascot battle.
Oh yeah.
I miss him
mascot by
already, and he's been
mascot.
gone for like a week.
Yeah.
Harry Potter activist.
Harry
I don't
Potter
know what that
activist.
means.
And then the whole marriage thing, he went all in that one too. And he even had the opportunity. She was trying to, stop the interview or, cut it to a close. And he kept going. He's like, well, Trevor, if he's on my side, unless he's crazy, is on my side.
I think
And just,
that's the thing. Mike Leach was all in.
Mhm.
Regardless of what the topic was, he was all in.
he was all in and very personable too. Like he could have, said, okay, I'm busy. I got my own things to do, but he gave more time there. And I don't know, did you guys have anything to say or any like a special, like a favorite moment of Mike Leach? And one of those might be it. I don't know. I mean,
There's so many different things you could bring into the equation to discuss Mike Leach. He's definitely one of those very unique characters in college football that the sport is poor today not having him involved.
yeah.
And it really stinks because we followed him since he took the job at Texas Tech. I think he got hired at Texas Tech in, was it 02 or 01? He was at Texas Tech in the early 2000s. And he'd gone there from Oklahoma, and he'd had a lot of success in all these different spots. And I remember watching ESPN, and they would interview him after Tech games, and he'd be like, "This dude's nutso. There's no chance this guy's an actual serious coach, but I mean, he climbed up.
Hmm.
He, went Texas Tech job didn't end very well, but he ended up going to the Pac-12 for a couple years, and then came to the SEC after we'd been clamoring for him to come over here for a while. There was a chance he could have been Tennessee's head coach for a second there as well. But he's just one of those unique cats that we're never going to see another Mike Leach. We're just
Yeah.
No,
It-
he was one for the nerds. I mean, he never played football. He knew it. He was an analytical mind, a battlefield mind. And I am very jealous of those that got to take his like warfare
Oh my
class.
God, that had to have been the greatest college
yes.
class ever.
I'm so jealous, and I can only hope that they recorded some of those lectures and will one day put them online for us to watch, because that would be very special.
Yeah, I liked the mascot thing. I liked the there's another one where he talks about student loans, and that one is hilarious. Where would he spend time in jail if his student loans could be forgiven, and just that whole thing.
That interview.
That's like a 9-minute interview, but you're on the edge of your seat the whole time because you're wondering where the story's going next.
I read something about how he had somebody call the office when he was at Washington, and they called and somebody overheard the conversation, and he talked to this guy for like 35 minutes. And then when he hung up the phone, the coach was like, "Hey coach, who was that?" He's like, "I don't know. They had the wrong number."
Yes.
He's just a personable character who would just talk and talk and talk. And just like you said, Wes, you'd be on the edge of your seat hanging on every word because he's such a good storyteller.
Right. And did you guys know that he was in the SEC before? He was with Kentucky. He was an assistant at Kentucky.
Oh, right.
And actually that's kind of where they developed the air raid, the concept for that, at least.
He coached at Valdosta State for a while too, because Joker Phillips was the offense coordinator at Valdosta State, or he might have been the head coach at Valdosta State before he took the Kentucky job.
Yeah,
and he brought Mike with him, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly. My old athletic director at Mossy he played under Mike Leach for a bit. At Valdosta.
Wow. I bet he's got some stories. Yeah, like you said, Matt, the college football world needs more personalities like him. He will be sorely missed. We will always smile at the memories and fun moments he provided to all of us. Although, it is, talking about what are they going to do now, which is, a crazy thing to, right away think about, but it's something that they have to do. But in terms of the bowl game, Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated wrote, "I don't think it was a question, but of course Mississippi State will play in its bowl game. As one state official told me earlier this morning, Mike would be pissed if we didn't play. The bowl game is at a stadium with an actual pirate ship in it." So of course they're going to play in that.
And he would have been like, "Can I see the pirate ship?" The minute
he would have
analyzed it and told
the minute he got there, he'd been like, "Listen, I just gotta go see it."
Looking at the cannon that they fire during touchdowns and things like,
he would have looked at it and been like, "That is not periodic, like correct for the period. Technically, they had this, and this. And if you really want to get technical, you would have this guy placed here, and he would have this, and he'd be one of those guys."
Mike Leach was my spirit animal. I do that crap all the time when I go places.
He would have had his 3-cornered hat and sword and all that stuff. So believe me, his memory will live on. I have no doubt that we will be sharing clips of his wit and wisdom for years to come. So so just kind of moving on, but slightly related, Mississippi State defensive coordinator Zach Arnett has officially been promoted to head coach. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I know it's, there's a lot going on there, a lot to kind of unpack there. To me, this is just kind of you keep things familiar, especially for recruits, stability, keep things consistent. To me, that's kind of what this move is. It kind of consists of. What do y'all think?
Is he their head coach like for next season?
I think he's been.
Yeah, they've signed him for I think a multi-year deal.
See, that was my thing too. I'm like, throw the interim tag on there, sure, but do you really want to commit to and I don't know what the contract looked like, but do you really want to commit right now to him when, I mean, there's still viable options out. I mean, heck, Ogeron's still out there. There's a couple other names that are probably still bouncing around. You probably could get
NFL season's over. There will be more options.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know why Mississippi State went ahead and pulled the trigger. And I know it's probably from a emotional kind of standpoint, but AD's got to be real analytical there. Like he's got to look at it the long term and go, listen, okay, fine. Do we really want to put this guy head? I don't agree with the move, but
I also wonder how critical it was for, because early signing day is tomorrow, right? I believe, as we record. So I also wonder if there are certain questions about that recruits. I don't know what all was involved there as well. Maybe there was a fear that many of them would head on in a different direction if somebody else was brought in. Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, maybe he agreed to run the same offense. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
But can he? I mean, he's a D coordinator. That's not really his job.
I know.
Right. At that point, it would be, turning it over to the OC to just maybe continue things. I don't know. All right. And then another thing that just kind of developed today, in just a matter of a day or two, we've talked about Kentucky and their offensive woes and people leaving and stuff like that for the draft and whatnot. Mark Stoops resolves this issue, at least on the surface, at both the quarterback and the running back positions by getting NC State's quarterback Devin Leary, who is the number 1 quarterback in the transfer portal, depending on, which rankings you look at or whatever. And then Ray Davis, who ran the ball like an absolute beast last year for Vandy, is headed there as well. So big moves by Mark Stoops, plugging holes here. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, it's smart. When I saw NC State play Carolina, the Tar Heels, I was impressed. I thought he did a really good job. It was a great game to watch. And I think we're only going to continue to see more of this. I mean, it's not going to be just unique to Kentucky. The transfer portal has been lit up, as we've talked about, and it's only going to continue to be. I think as signing day happens, more and more, transfer portal guys are going to commit. It's just going to get wild, and it's honestly going to be hard to cover because there's going to be so many.
I think I saw a stat the other day that said that it's like 1 out of every 3 college football players right now is in the portal. Like it's some insane, outrageous number that's out there. I think it was like there's 13,000 college football players, and there's like 1,300 in the portal right now. It's just there's something along those lines. No, it must have been higher than that. I don't remember this exact stat, but that's a crazy number.
And statistically, about 60% of those may not find a home, at least if we're going on the past couple of years.
And let's remember, this is also the only this is the real first time you get a crack at this big open field portal stuff. Next year, it might not be as popular once people realize, oh, if I put my name in the portal, there's a chance I end up at North Abilene State instead of staying second string at North Dakota, whatever. In regard to both of those pickups by Kentucky, though, I'm curious as to how those are going to pan out. I was just looking at the stat line for Devin Leary. He went this season 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. QBR was right at 56. And that was against ACC competition. I don't know if that's the greatest thing on the planet. But like Jesse said, we've seen him play a couple games. He has some moxie. He stays in the pocket and he puts the ball in play like he's supposed to. So we'll see. Now, the Ray Davis pickup is huge. This is a guy at Vanderbilt, had 200 touches and averaged, got over 1,000 yards for the entire season.
That's playing for Vandy.
And that's playing for Vanderbilt, who's not known for being a powerhouse when we're talking about running the football. So I think this is a good pickup for Mark Stoops. I think Kentucky's going to be able to do a lot of business with this running back. Leary, the jury's still out. We'll have to see how he looks in spring practice and how he looks going into next season. But again, nobody can complain that Mark Stoops isn't trying to do something and that he's just being complacent and taking the hits like he took this season. He
needs to find an offensive line.
That would be beneficial as well.
Yeah.
Because that current one ain't up to snuff, and it don't matter how good your quarterback is when nobody's getting blocks.
Yeah, and it seems like it must be difficult to recruit the quarterback position there because that's where Levis also came from the portal as well. So it's just kind of like, all right, we're just going to kind of keep plugging guys in as we need.
It worked for Auburn for years and years and years.
That's true.
I mean, that's the beauty of the portal, though, is it's you can go pick up exactly what you need. I know Tennessee's picked a couple guys up in the portal. We picked up an offensive guard. We picked up a linebacker, which God knows we needed a stud at linebacker. and Bama's picked up a couple guys as
He
well.
just got the number 1 JUCO wide receiver.
And so you've got some moves that are taking place. But the flip side of that is portal can also screw you up real bad. Looking at you, Texas A&M, because you just lost one of your big heads the other day. So it's not looking great.
A&M recruited well, but keeping them has proved to be difficult. So
I think they've lost most of the portal this offseason so far, haven't they?
They did, at least when I looked a few days ago. Yeah, they were the lead, and Florida and Ole Miss were not far behind. So
what do they say in the business world, Jesse? The optics of this are just awful.
The optics are awful.
Of course, in the case of Ole Miss, it's like live by the sword, die by the sword, because they have taken advantage of the portal a lot as well. So anyway,
I don't think Lane is crying over there. I think he's.
I don't think so.
Lane's. Never mind. I've stopped myself.
All right. Well, what's that?
Lane is busy.
Oh, yes.
Doing
that's
what?
True.
You fill in whatever blank you want.
I don't think any of us want to know.
Yeah.
Trolling people on Twitter.
That's it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the bowl games.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right, so just here real quick, current pick'em standings, I've got 46, Matt's got 41, Jesse has 22. Each one of these bowl games is worth 2 points, so you never know. Could be all chaos could be unleashed. You never know.
Jesse's about to come rolling back in this thing.
I don't think there's any possibility where I can't.
No, listen, there's one.
Never know.
2, how many games are there? 3.
I thought you were working out the odds there. I was like, man, that's impressive.
Mathematically, I can.
7, 8. There's like 9 games. If you win, if you got like 7 of them, that means me and Wes split the other 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you at? 22? Yeah, you're screwed. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't. That's
well, and okay, sorry. A playoff game is worth 4 points, which we've got one of those, and then the Natty is worth 6. So because they get larger as we go.
You're never out of it, Jesse. You're nipping at the heels. It just statistically, it's not looking.
Statistically, low chances. However, I am somewhat an agent of chaos. I will just pick what I want.
Yeah, you did.
Never tell me the odds.
It's just like Lloyd Christmas and Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
That's it. Do we want to talk about the Florida Oregon State game? I know none of us we didn't make any picks for it. It's just sort of floating out there. Obviously, what was that? Was that 30-3? Florida lost 30-3.
30-3, yes.
Their second 6-7 season in a row down in Gainesville.
I mean, when your decent quarterback sits out because he's going to the draft, your backup quarterback goes to prison. Things are just allegedly on his way, potentially.
Yeah. He's been dismissed from the team.
It's very hard. Florida needs to make a big transfer portal QB move. Big.
Yeah. So I was trying to find it here because they listed the QB situation. Oh yeah. Billy Napier's first QB room. Emory Jones transferred. Carlos Del Rio Wilson transferred. Jalen Kitna kicked off team. Anthony Richardson declared for the draft. Max Brown redshirted, didn't play 2022 snap. Jack Miller broke thumb, didn't play 2022 snap, but Jack Miller was back for that. So yeah, not a great situation in the QB room for that first look. I know it's a bowl game where a lot of people are sitting out, and I get that. You have to be somewhat discouraged though as a Florida fan.
It's been rough since the Kyles.
Yeah.
I think the Florida struggled this year against Pac-12 too, because this is the second Pac-12 team they lost to. They lost to Utah at the beginning of the season. Didn't they?
They beat Utah.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I neglected.
But I mean,
yeah,
Utah beat Utah.
Yeah, that's true. By the way, I want to point out, if you are a Florida fan and you're listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, there's a plug.
Thank you, by the way.
We did not. Yes, thank you, by the way. But we did not skip your game on purpose. This is just a scheduling thing.
Yeah, just how things work.
For the Bama fan, a Tennessee fan, a Georgia fan, it can look a little sussy, and I get that, but that's not.
Yeah, no. Honestly, you're probably glad we didn't.
By the way, I do want to point out that they had 2 leading rushers on Florida's team. That'd be Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson, and both those guys got 14 yards total from scrimmage.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's rough.
Yeah, I did see. Yeah,
Rough.
those stats were not pretty from that game. Let's go ahead and move to predictions. The first of which is the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. That's Wake Forest at 7-5 versus Missouri at 6-6 from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. That's Friday, December the 23rd at 6:30 on ESPN. So a couple of preview topics here. Some keys here are going to be Mizzou containing that slow mesh offense, which is, just kind of an interesting version of the RPO, sort of, which has been effective for Wake Forest, defending the jump ball against the Wake Forest big receivers. That's going to be key. Getting Brady Cook going, establishing the running game with Cody Schrader, and forcing turnovers. That's going to be what Mizzou is going to want to do here. Jesse, what is your prediction for the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl?
I mean, Mizzou barely made a bowl game. But Mizzou needs to finish with a win in order to have a winning season. And they're going to be missing some big players on defense, and offense has to be consistent, which we know their offense has not been consistent and their defense has been okay. Will it still be okay with these guys out? We'll have to see. But the team is pretty decent at controlling the clock. And I think the defense will still be okay. And for the most part, Wake Forest has had some sus games. So I'm going to pick Mizzou in this one, but it's going to be a really close one. Pick in 28-27.
Okay, Matt, what's your pick?
This is a Wake Forest team that has lost 4 out of their last 5. Their last win was against Syracuse back in the middle of November. They've got losses in the stretch to Duke, UNC, NC State, and Louisville. This is a Wake Forest team that is stumbling going down the stretch of the season. However, y'all know how I feel about Coach Drinky, and you know how I feel about Missouri, and you know how we've been talking about Missouri this season, and I don't see it happening. I don't. I know they got a big win against Carolina to wrap up the regular season, but I don't see it happening. I just don't. I think Wake Forest is going to find a way to get ahead, stay ahead. I think Wake Forest wins this thing 28-20.
Matt, I enjoy it when you summon your courage, you circle the wagons. It's obvious that you've been a part of Toughness Tuesday, and you make a courageous pick like this.
Today is Toughness Tuesday.
I hate it.
It is
so
Toughness
much.
Tuesday.
I hate
Yeah.
it so much.
Yeah. So I think the OK defense has been probably our longest running callback of the season. So I love that. We've watched this OK Mizzou defense all year, and they've really been, to me, a stabilizing factor for the team as a whole. I think that they contain that Demon Deacons offense, and Mizzou wins 31-24. So next is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Kansas at 6-6 versus Arkansas, also 6-6 from Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee. That is Wednesday, December the 28th at 5:30 on ESPN. So
what are in those swag bags? That's what I want to know.
I want to know.
You just get like a carburetor, a new set of brake pads, just waiting in your hotel
Windshield
room.
wipers. Everybody always needs new windshield wipers.
A few
You do.
blinkers.
Like a little air freshener.
Blinker fluid. Yes, blinker fluid. All the things. No, I would love to see that as well. So the last time Kansas qualified for the postseason was the Insight Bowl in 2008, and I think we all remember how that turned out. The keys, number one, watch out for Kansas's Jalen Daniels, who's been out with injury for some of the season, but threw for 13 touchdowns and only 2 picks. So obviously he's done a good job of taking care of the ball. Number 2, running back Devin Neal is also dangerous for them, so keep an eye on that. Arkansas will need a strong performance from both KJ Jefferson and Raheem Rocket Sanders. These teams have only played each other twice, in 1905 and 1906. Kansas won both, so I don't think that's relevant.
Those were big years.
So,
well, I think we all remember those.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I've got the scorebook and everything. Yeah. Jesse, your prediction for the AutoZone Liberty Bowl?
I mean, it's gonna be a Crash. There's nothing I can do there. I think Arkansas also is similar to Mizzou in the fact that, they barely made a bowl game. They really need to salvage this season. It's been extraordinarily disappointing and something that at the beginning we really didn't expect. So they need to pick up their third straight win in the Liberty Bowl. And I think right now there's a shaky sort of run defense, but Kansas did finish last in the Big 12 when it came to rushing yards allowed per game. So I'm hoping that Arkansas, Rocket Sanders, and KJ Jefferson will be able to get gritty, put up some rushing yards here. So I'm going to pick the Razorbacks 34-31 because I still don't have a lot of confidence.
Nice. Matt, your pick.
Now, in the last pick, I said that a team was sliding going into the postseason. Kansas is definitely sliding, losing 4 out of their last 5. Their only win was against somehow they pulled out a win against Oklahoma State.
They started so strong too.
They did. I think they got up to like 8 or 9, 8 or 7.
They were
or
pretty
8.
high, yeah.
They were
stories here.
They were up there, but I don't think Kansas is going to find a way to pull this thing off. I think if Arkansas can play smart football, if they can, play their game, if they can do what they're supposed to, I think they end up winning this ball game. However, I think it's going to be a little bit closer than what Jesse said, because Jesse, didn't you say 34-31? Oh no, yours was 3 points. Okay,
Yeah.
Mine's not quite that close, but it's fairly close. So I'm going to say Arkansas wins this thing 20-14.
All right. Yeah, props to Kansas for making it back to a bowl season, but I think Arkansas is going to rise to the occasion. Especially it comes to the line of scrimmage. I guess I always go back to that for Arkansas because Sam Pittman, former O-line coach, and I feel like it's just kind of a matter of pride with them. He wants to dominate that line of scrimmage. I think they do that here, and I'm going with Arkansas 38-31. So next is the Tax Act Texas Bowl. There's a swag bag for you.
I was gonna say another swag bag. Do you get an accountant or
maybe like a voucher for an accountant, or I don't know.
Just like a lot of H&R Block swag? I don't know.
There you go. And that is Texas Tech at 7-5 versus Ole Miss 8-4 from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Wednesday, December the 28th at 9:00 on ESPN. All these times are Eastern, by the way.
Kickoff, a really late kickoff,
right? So some things to watch here. Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Shaw missed time with a broken collarbone this season, but it started with the last 3 games, all Texas Tech victories. Texas Tech's defense is giving up an average of over 400 yards a game, however. So that's a little sus. Ole Miss leads the series here 4-2, winning the season opener in 2018. That Ole Miss defense will have to watch out for the pass happy Raiders, though. So, Jesse, your prediction for the Tax Act Texas Bowl?
I think luckily Ole Miss, their star is a freshman this year, Quinshon Judkins. We've talked about him a bunch. He's been outstanding in his first year there at Ole Miss, and he's led the SEC in rushing yards this season. But as we know, and as we've talked about, Ole Miss has struggled to finish games at times throughout the season and, has kind of taken their foot off the gas, which is something that the Red Raiders could take advantage of. But I think Texas Tech's veteran secondary is going to have to shut down the Ole Miss rushing attack early if they want to stay in this game. But I really don't think that they're going to do that. I think Ole Miss is going to get that offense firing on all cylinders. And it might be a long night for Texas Tech. So I'm going to pick the Rebels 35-27.
All right, Matt, your prediction.
Yeah, I think again, we're talking about it's a common theme these 3 games. You're talking about a team that's struggling coming down the stretch. Ole Miss has also lost 4 of their last 5. They're only winning against a I don't want to use the word atrocious because that's not strong enough, but just a plain out terrible Texas A&M team. This is a team that's been kind of struggling. But I'm pretty sure they've had time to heal, had time to recuperate. Lane's going to have plenty of time to look at defensive tape and scheme up stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Ole Miss in this one 38-28.
All right. Yeah, for this one, I expect a ton of points to be scored in this game. Heck, it might even come down to the last team with the ball. I'm going to say Ole Miss wins this one in an offensive slugfest 45-38. All right. So next is the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl. Number 1 Notre Dame at 8-4 versus number 19 South Carolina at 8-4 from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. Friday, December the 30th at 3:30 on ESPN. So, some things to talk about here. Spencer Rattler will play in the bowl game. Notre Dame's tight end Michael Mayer, their leading receiver, has opted out. Their leading quarterback Drew Pine is in the transfer portal, but they've gotten their previous starter, Tyler Buckner, back from injury. So interesting storylines there. Notre Dame leads this series 3-1, but they haven't played since 1984. Notre Dame's defense is stingy on paper, but can Rattler have another one of those breakout performances? Jesse, what do you think?
We will see. South Carolina has played well recently, obviously with those wins down the stretch, but their run defense has left a lot to be desired this season. So not only have they surrendered the 21st most rushing yards in the nation at 197.2, they've also allowed an average of 254.3 yards on the ground over their last 3 games. Luckily, Notre Dame's run attack hasn't been that great. So I do think the Gamecocks pull this one out in a slugfest, because I think these are pretty evenly matched teams, depending on which Spencer Rattler you get. So I'm going to pick the Gamecocks 38-35.
I like that. I like that pick. Matt, what do you got?
No. Listen, Spencer Rattler has played lights out the last couple of games. I will be the first to admit that he nuked Tennessee. I don't know where in the world that Spencer Rattler's been. He looked okay against Clemson, but this is not going to go Carolina's way. I'm sorry. I hate picking against the conference, but I don't see Notre Dame, who's knocked out a couple people coming down the stretch, except for that whole loss at USC. But USC is a pretty good football team this year. They only lost to them by 9. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Notre Dame here. And I'm going to say Notre Dame wins by 2 scores. So I'm going to say Notre Dame 42-28.
Okay.
Beamer ball. Beamer ball.
Matt's had enough of that.
I've had enough of the Beamer ball. I don't want to hear the term ever again. By the way, were we concerned about Spencer Rattler not playing in this bowl game?
I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Was there talk that he was going to do something?
I don't know. I mean, it's just it was noteworthy just because he's a noteworthy player, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I
mean, and he's old enough.
who knows?
To leave.
who knows?
He ain't going in the draft. There's nobody that would.
No,
draft
he's not.
him.
Well,
Absolutely not. But
we've said that about a few others too. So
this is true. This is accurate.
so anyway, after an inexplicable 38-6 loss to Florida, South Carolina finished by blowing out Tennessee and narrowly beating Clemson, who's just dominated them in recent memory, and beating them in their own house at that. So I think South Carolina continues the strong finish to their season and wins a close one in 27-24.
Who would have thought Beamer would have 9 wins this season?
Right.
That's high.
Next is the Capital One Orange Bowl, number 6 Tennessee 10-2 versus number 7 Clemson at 11-2 from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida, Friday, December the 30th at 8:00 on ESPN. So a couple things to talk about here. Tennessee wide receiver Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt, and Matt, probably you know better about all these than I do, but at least them two have declared for the draft and won't play. DJ Uiagalelei has entered the transfer portal after losing the starting job.
Practice that one.
Yeah, man.
I was gonna say, I don't know how you did that on the first try.
After losing the starting job to Cade Klubnik, they've also lost a few other players to the transfer portal as well. So these teams haven't met since 2004 when Clemson won the Peach Bowl.
I was at that game.
Yeah. Oh, well, nice.
Yeah.
Clemson offense has struggled, as we've seen this season. But to be fair, so has the Tennessee defense. So there's going to be some storylines to watch here with that. Jesse, what is your prediction for this one?
So the last few weeks for Tennessee have been somewhat of a roller coaster of emotions. Hendon Hooker obviously suffering that season-ending injury at South Carolina. You have the wideouts kind of that you mentioned, both opting out for the bowl game ahead of the draft. And now they have to turn to a backup quarterback in Joe Milton. And 2 of those big targets are gone. So like the Vols, like you mentioned, Clemson has also suffered a loss at the hands of the Gamecocks, but the Tigers bounced back after that to beat North Carolina in the ACC championship. So I think Clemson should be able to take advantage of a shorthanded Tennessee team. So unfortunately, I think Clemson's going to take this one 28-21 because a lot of those stars for Tennessee are gone.
Matt, how are you feeling about your Vols?
Okay, so a couple things first. Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt will be leaving for the draft. Sidebar conversation here, right quick, because I need to take a minute to talk to Tennessee Twitter. Vol Twitter, they're making a business decision. Shut up. Okay, there's been a lot of people that have been like, "Oh, they need to play in the bowl game." No, they don't. Let them go on. Let them get their payday. Let's call it a day. Jesse said they're a little diminished with those two being gone. Cedric has been kind of a non-entity since he got injured earlier in the season, which again is awful and sucks, but it's the reality of the situation. Tennessee has leaned on a couple of other wide receivers. Squirrel White comes to mind. Brew McCoy comes to mind, and a couple others. Ramel Keaton comes to mind. So there are a couple more guns in the bullet, so to speak.
But none with a better name than Squirrel White.
You're absolutely right. So yeah, the wide receiver course taking a bit of a hit, losing Jalen Hyatt. Nobody can replace him, but there's still plenty of talent there, I think. Also to mention the fact that yes, Joe Milton will be starting this game over Hendon Hooker. Hooker suffering an awful ACL tear in the South Carolina game kind of puts us behind the 8 ball, but I have faith in Deep Throw Joe. And so I think that Tennessee is going to find a way to win this ball game. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's probably going to come down to the very end of the game. But the Vols have showed that if they are in the fight late, they have a chance to win it, as they did against a couple of teams this season. So I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb here. I'm going to say Tennessee wins this game 42-40.
All right. Yeah. So Vegas has Clemson by 6. I get that Hendon Hooker's injured and Tillman and Hyatt aren't playing. But like you said, Matt, I kind of view it as like an opportunity for guys to step up. And I think Joe Milton is gonna do well, I think, or at least well enough. So I don't think Clemson has the upper hand here, maybe quite like a few others think. I think this becomes a shootout that perhaps Clemson can't keep up with. So because of that, I'm going with Tennessee 38-28.
That's the proper pick. Thank you, Wes.
I hear you. Next is the All-State Sugar Bowl. Number 5 Alabama at 10-2 versus number 9 Kansas State 10-3 from Caesars Superdome in New Orleans,
Like that.
Louisiana.
There's so much bad voodoo around this game.
Don't like that.
I love it so much.
That is Saturday, December the 31st at noon on ESPN. By the way, obviously Sunday being the first, it's kind of weird to not have college football on New Year's Day, but I get it. We don't want to compete with the NFL, all that stuff. Anyway, that's just a sidebar. Anyway, so a few things to talk about here. Receivers JoJo Earl, Aaron Anderson, and Trayshawn Holden, and guard Javion Cohen entered the transfer portal for Bama. However, Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. will play, and from what I'm seeing, it seems like Jahmyr Gibbs will play as well. So Kansas State looks like they will also be mostly intact when it comes to their starters, from what I've read and seen. The real challenge is going to be, can Nick Saban get his team energized and ready to play after disappointment of not making the playoffs? And we've seen it time and time again with teams that are right there at the edge, and then they don't get in the playoff. Okay, what do you do in the bowl game now? So interested to see how that goes. This will be the first meeting between these two teams. So that's kind of cool. So Jesse, what is your prediction for your Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I mean, Bryce Young is playing.
That's it. That's all you got.
I mean, that's all you really got to say.
That's all you have to say. Bryce Young is playing.
I do need a score from you, though.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. I still don't like the juju, and we'll be saging the house prior to this game. And if someone doesn't mind saging all of New Orleans, that would be really helpful. You might want to get down there now, though. Yeah, I think it would have been a very different game had Bryce not played, because yes, we do have all of those gentlemen in the transfer portal. However, again, I'm not worried. They weren't doing that much anyways. So I'm going to pick the Tide 31-23.
All right, Matt, what do you got?
Listen, this game has never been good to Bama. I seem to remember a couple other stops that Bama's had in New Orleans, and things have not gone well for them. A lot of Big 12 SEC matchups in the postseason this year too. I'm kind of finding that interesting. And both of these teams have a team in common that they played. Bama played Texas. Kansas State obviously played Texas as well. We all saw how the Bama-Texas game went. We all saw how Kansas State lost to Texas by a touchdown. So kind of going off of the concept that, well, if Kansas State lost to Texas and Bama beat Texas, surely Bama should beat Kansas State.
Transitive property of football.
And usually that's not going to work, but I think it will in this particular case. Let's also remember that, Bryce is a ridiculous playmaker, one of the most talented people to ever play this game, let alone be on the field for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Bama. I don't think it's going to be as close as some people are going to make it out to be. I don't think Kansas State is going to be able to pull this off. So I'm going to say 45-28 Bama.
All right. Yeah, I think
better, but I'm too traumatized.
I don't blame you.
Understandable. Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, I think a lot of the main Bama players like Bryce Young and Will Anderson playing is huge for this team. That might be suffering, a little disappointment. I don't know. If they weren't playing, I'd be worried. But as it stands, I mean, what the heck? Bryce has been putting the team on his shoulders all year long. So what's one more game, right? So I see Kansas State hanging in this one and maybe even close to having a lead in the second half. But I think Bama does what they need to do, and they win 31-24. No, Jesse, I didn't make that 1 point difference just because I saw yours. I did have this written down previously. I know it looks weird though.
Again, I can't really win. It's okay.
you just never know. All right. Next is the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. Iowa at 7-5 versus Kentucky at 7-5 from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee.
What are you smiling at, Wes? I saw that.
I can't. Saturday, December the 31st at noon on ABC. Preview topics: this game will feature zero offense. Will Levis and Chris Rodriguez are going to be sitting out to prepare for the draft. Offensive coordinator Rich Scangarello has been fired. Iowa starting QB Spencer Petras is out due to injury, and backup Alex Padilla entered the transfer portal, which means third string quarterback Joey Labas. I apologize. We're not familiar. I am not familiar with all these, especially outside of the conference names. Anyway, he has 0 career pass attempts, and he's the favorite to start. So there you have it there.
He's the only option to start.
At 31, this game is the lowest predicted point total in college football history since they've been keeping track of that stat. These teams have met once last year where Kentucky won 20-17. Jesse, what is your prediction for this one?
Jesse had like 63-48 or something.
I just had it like in the 20s, and then I was like, now that I'm hearing that stuff out loud, like when you read it, you're like, but then when you hear it out loud, oh, feels different. I will agree that the absences at quarterback, running back, offensive coordinator, it's just a lot of absences. So I think we've obviously seen that Kentucky has had some struggles this season, and not only offensively, but I think they've also had some defensive struggles. So I just don't know, and I hate to do this, but I just don't know that Kentucky is going to be able to pull it out. I think we've seen when Levis is not behind the helm, even when he is behind the helm, things get a little wonky. So I unfortunately think Iowa's going to pull this one out. And honestly, I'm going to just meet Murphy one more time. Okay. Iowa 13-10.
All right.
I don't like it. I don't want to do it, but
Yeah. Matt, how you feeling about this one?
Listen, this is an Iowa team that is averaging, where's the stat? 17.4 points a game. And
defense is good.
UK is not even that much better at 22.1 points a game. Just both teams are going to be there's a reason why they put them in this bowl game in this slot on New Year's. It's just iffy game. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that Kentucky's going to find a way to pull this thing off. In fact, I'm going to change my score. I'm going to say 10-3 instead of 14-3. Kentucky.
Yeah, I hope all the good fans up there just really enjoy Nashville, because that's going to be the highlight
They
of the
won't
trip.
enjoy the stadium. That field's going to be garbage. That
Yeah.
field is garbage every year. The Music City Bowl sucks.
Yeah,
The location is fun.
yeah. I was going to say that. I mean, if nothing else, they can enjoy the Nashville.
They can go enjoy all the bachelorette parties downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, bachelorette party,
the game.
capital of the world.
Yeah.
It's
this
probably
one,
a good thing Ole Miss isn't in this bowl game.
I didn't see it.
I said it.
let that one. Yep. This one might be the most boring game, not just of the SEC teams this bowl game, but perhaps the entire bowl season. I don't know. With so many ridiculous variables in this game, my pick is honestly just a shot in the dark. I'm going Iowa 17-14, a true Big Ten style score, at least the old school. Yeah,
that's the way the SEC used to be. You remember, like in 91, 92, you'd have Bama Auburn would be like 10-3, 14-6, things like that. We're a long way away from those days.
Literally 9-6.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
That was 2011.
Right. Yeah. All right. Next is the CFP semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Number 4 Ohio State 11-1 versus number 1 Georgia at 13-0 from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. That is Saturday, December the 31st at 8:00 on ESPN. A couple of things to note here for Georgia. Wide receiver Ladd McConkey and offensive lineman Warren McClendon both left the SEC championship with injuries, and we'll see if they return. A.D. Mitchell is finally healthy, however, and played in the SEC championship. So Dog fans definitely excited to see him back. Then on the other side of the ball, Ohio State wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba will sit out, which isn't really a surprise when you think about it. He's been battling an injury for a while. I know a lot of people were like, why is he sitting out the playoff game? Well, I mean, he's been battling injury for a while, and this just sort of makes sense for him. These teams have met only once, the 1993 Citrus Bowl, which Georgia won 21-14. So it's going to be interesting to see what strategy Ohio State employs here. Bubble screens worked for Kent State, and quick passes worked for LSU. Georgia needs to get quick pressure on the second, or the secondary will be tested majorly by a host of really good Ohio State receivers. Jesse, what is your prediction for the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl?
I just don't have a lot of confidence in Ohio State after the Michigan game. And I know that's just one game, and I get it. And maybe I shouldn't hang my hat on that, but I really just don't feel like they will match up to this UGA team, to, like a number 1 UGA team. So I also think at the same time that UGA has to be really careful here. They have started really slow in a lot of games, and you can't do that against, a playoff team. So they have to be very, very careful. But I am going to pick the Dogs in this one, 31-27, because I'm telling you, it's going to be UGA and Michigan wins it.
All right. Matt, what do you got?
This is a tough one. I think UGA's defense has proven this season that they're going to be dominant. The offense is shaky at times. But I just have a hard time imagining that we can lean on what Ohio State did against Michigan as the end all be all to call this game. I'm really surprised that Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State's top player, has not declared for the draft. Apparently he's going to stick it out and play in this one. So that kind of tells me that Ohio State's going to be gunning. I would look for Ohio State to stretch the field here. They're not going to have a whole lot of time to throw, I don't think. But, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a dangerous, dangerous asset. And we saw what happened to UGA during the SEC championship. If the offensive, wide receivers start to get open, okay, they can move. That Georgia secondary struggled a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see how Ohio State's if they're going to be able to capitalize on that. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to be able to. And I think UGA is probably going to win this thing by a couple of scores. But if OSU could find a way to keep it close, I like OSU's chances, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and pick UGA 28-10.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the Dogs had a chance to look at some of that tape and hopefully make a few adjustments on the defensive side. One other thing to note about this game is Michigan beat out Georgia for the Joe Moore Award, which is the award given to the nation's best offensive line. So, look, I'm not saying that Michigan doesn't deserve it. Michigan has actually averaged rushing about 40 more yards per game than Georgia has. But I also know that Georgia's offensive line will use this as motivation. At least I hope they will. And if Georgia controls the line in this game, watch out. So on the defensive side, key here is pressure on CJ Stroud. And, in the same sense, how is he going to perform in another big game, which we have historically kind of seen him kind of struggle in. We have two clear-cut games here, Tennessee and LSU for Georgia's defense and the strategy here. In the Tennessee game, we pressure Hooker with tons of blitzes, and it was effective. In the LSU game, didn't blitz near as much, and we gave up over 500 yards of offense through the air. Key in this one to me is pressure, knocking Stroud around a bit, getting in his head, easing the pressure on the secondary. I think that Georgia will be able to score some points, but we got to contain them on offense. So I'm going to go with Georgia here, 35-28. So a little nervous, but we'll see how that goes. Next is the ReliaQuest Bowl, number 22, Mississippi State at 8-4 versus Illinois at 8-4 from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Monday, January the 2nd, 2023. Sounds weird to say even already, at noon on ESPN2. So like we said, Mississippi State defensive coordinator Zach Arnett has officially been promoted to head coach. A couple other things for players. Standout quarterback Emmanuel Forbes declared for the NFL draft. Leading receiver Ra Thomas with 44 catches. And running back Dylan Johnson, who had 488 rushing yards. Both of them have entered the transfer portal. For Illinois, defensive coordinator Ryan Walters accepted an offer to become the head coach at Purdue. So a little bit of a change there for them. These two teams have met twice. Illinois won in 1923 and Mississippi State won in 1980. Another thing, cowbells will be allowed at this stadium. Both secondaries have gotten a lot of turnovers. There are contrasting approaches. Illinois is good at running and Mississippi State is good at passing. At least that is what they hope to do. So, Jesse, what are your thoughts on the ReliaQuest Bowl?
This one I am going to pick with my heart and not with my head. It's simple. I think the Bulldogs have the motivation to win. They have had a very emotionally tough season. Not only did, they just lose Coach Leach in a very unexpected way, but they also lost a teammate earlier this season in a very unexpected and sad way. So I just think emotionally, these guys, they just have to win. That's really all it is. I really hope that they get it done for the Pirate, but also for their teammates. So I realize I did not put a score, but I'm going to pick Mississippi State despite all of the things that are probably not in their favor. And this is a decent Illinois team, and no one has been able to say that for a very long time about the Illini. So I'm going to pick the Bulldogs in this one. We're going to say, let's say 21-20.
All right. Matt, your pick for this one.
I got to go with Illinois. The only reason why, and I hate to do that because I want Mississippi State to win this game for coach.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to kind of put that to the side and look at this thing analytically. Illinois has fielded one of the better defenses in the country this season. According to the stat sheet, they've averaged 12 points per game. This is a team that held Michigan to under 20 points in their loss in November. So I don't think that that Mississippi State's going to be able to move the ball very effectively against that defense. I think this is a case of Illinois being too much up front and too much as far as their secondary goes, because they're also only giving up 165 yards in the air. So I mean, this is a pretty solid defense that the Illini have put together. So I'm going to pick Illinois here, 28-20.
Yeah. So I think, and when I say this, I don't necessarily mean in my own head, although I certainly feel this way, but I think it's also in the heads of all the players and what they're thinking as well. I think you throw out Vegas, you throw out the fact that some big players are in the transfer portal. I think this one is for the Pirate coach, Mike Leach, and I'm going with Mississippi State 28-21.
There will be a 30 for 30 on it if they win.
Like I said, I like the pick. I don't see it happening.
Sure. Yeah, no, makes sense. Next is the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. The number 17 LSU 9-4 versus Purdue 8-5 from Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. That's
also
Monday.
Not a great stadium.
Yeah, that's
I went down there for the Citrus Bowl and I want to say it was like 2007, 2008, and I remember going, this stadium's kind of crap.
I used to work the Florida Classic, the HBCU Classic in Florida every season. Terrible stadium.
Yeah. Well, for those who will be there, that'll be on Monday, January the 2nd, 2023 at 1:00 on ABC. So it sounds like Jaden Daniels is going to be good to go. Although, as we saw in the SEC championship, it appears as if Nussmeier does get the starter, if he needs to go, LSU should be just fine. BJ Ojulari will sit out to prepare for the draft. And then for Purdue, head coach Jeff Brom, obviously he's left to be the coach at Louisville. Defensive coordinator Ron English followed him to Louisville and won't coach in this game. Offensive coordinator Brian Brom, Jeff's younger brother, will work as the team's head coach. So there you go.
Keeping it in the family.
Here you go, little bro. Jesse, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a Purdue team that's obviously done quite well this season, but LSU has had a surprisingly good first season under Coach Brian Kelly, and since Jaden Daniels seems to be in shape, I think that the Tigers are really frustrated about that performance against Georgia and are going to be really gunning to get a bowl win for Coach Kelly in his first year. So I'm going to pick the Tigers 28-24, but it's going to be, I think, a slugfest because Purdue's not anybody to laugh at.
Yeah. Matt, your prediction.
Yeah, I think there's too many variables in play here for Purdue to find a way to win this ball game. I think LSU is going to play pretty tough, and LSU is going to win 30-20.
Okay. Yeah, LSU is predicted, at least the last I looked, to win by 2 scores. If the offense plays like they did against Georgia, they may pass for a ton of yards, which I could also see happening. Yeah, I think LSU continues their list of unexpected good things this season by getting to 10 wins. I'm going with LSU 41-28. What game are you guys? What bowl game are you most excited to watch? Could be your own team's game. It could be random team. I don't know. What do you think?
And obviously, I'm really excited to watch the Sugar Bowl because it's the last time I will see Bryce Young in an Alabama uniform.
Yeah.
But then emotionally, I want to watch Mississippi State. And then I'm so curious about watching Kentucky and Iowa.
Yeah. Yes.
Jesse stole all the ones I was going to say. Yeah. Except for the Sugar Bowl. I could give 2 rats around about the Sugar Bowl. But yeah, I definitely want to watch the Orange Bowl. I want the Vols to come out and throttle Clemson. I know they won't do that, but one can hope. I am curious to see how Arkansas does against Kansas, if they're going to be able to find a way to salvage the season and get a bowl victory out of everything. And then I am kind of curious to see how Ohio State handles Georgia, see how that matchup is going to look like. So that's probably the game I'll be watching closest, even though I can't stand either team.
Yeah, other than, Georgia, Ohio State, I think I'm really interested to see how South Carolina does against Notre Dame. That would be
Oh, yeah.
really cool if they could represent against, at least in name, a powerhouse like Notre Dame.
It wouldn't be that cool, Wes. It wouldn't be that cool.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be that cool.
wouldn't be that cool. You're not that guy, pal.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, and then obviously pulling from Mississippi State. I would love that if they were able to pull that off. So all right, well, that does it for the bowl games. Let's move to a festive, just for fun segment. What does each team need for Christmas? And we're not going to go through each one, but each one of us is going to, pick the teams that we think we know what they need for Christmas. So, Jesse, let's start with you. What do you got?
I think right now UF is hoping that under their tree this year will be a transfer portal quarterback wrapped up with a bow, who has no, illicit illegal materials on their phone or computer.
Always helpful.
Who is, able to be consistent when he runs the ball or throws the ball. So I think that's probably number one on UF's list.
Or leaves to go to the NFL when they don't need to go to the NFL.
Yeah. I also think a team that we haven't talked about today, and I don't want to leave them out, is I think Auburn is just really hoping that they have a good compliance officer under the tree in the AD's office, and a really great crisis public relations manager's business card just wrapped up under the tree.
Those are some good ones. Can't deny that. Matt, who do you got?
I think Tennessee is going to be looking under their tree for some defense this year, trying to find some decent secondary people, some decent mid-level defenders. I think UGA is probably going to go looking for another national championship under their tree, but they're going to be really disappointed when all they get is a trophy for winning the Peach Bowl, because unfortunately, I think that national title is probably under Michigan's tree this year. I think Florida, I think, is going to be looking for some new coordinators here soon, so maybe they want some new folks. I don't think they can fire Napier yet. I'm telling you guys,
some for them.
Napier is Butch Jones version 2.0. I've said it before. Yeah. So is Beamer, Paul. You wait for it. Beamer's going to have some regression. It's coming next season. I'm going to go ahead and write it down right now.
Just waiting for the cliches from Napier. That's the key item for a Butch Jones.
Drinky's already hit that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did y'all see Butch throw his team under the bus the other day in a presser?
No, I missed that.
He said, quote, no, I can't quote it, but he said something about how the team needs a better culture. And it's Butch. You know how Butch is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Kentucky kind of ruined my joke. I was going to say they need some players on the offensive side of the ball, but poof, they've got them before Christmas. So Stoops shored up that shortcoming. So Texas A&M needs a coach. I'm just going to say it.
Not yet. For another couple of years.
No, I'm saying they have a need. They don't, it's not materialized yet, but if we want to be honest, and I'm going to say something that Matt, you may really have an issue with, but I think Coach Drinky at A&M would do a better job than Jimbo has.
Damn.
Because I mean, look at who he's
been fired.
Look at who he's had to work with, and nothing has happened. Where on the flip side, look what Mizzou did this year with less talent, much less talent. I mean, if we want to get down to it, I mean, it's a gross mismanagement of talent, is it not? I mean, am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
I'm flabbergasted, Wes. I'm speechless.
Jimbo is the name, but if you just put everything else aside, took the previous history that you know about both coaches and just watched what they've done this year with the talent that they've had, I mean, come on.
Well, we thought that A&M got taken for a ride when they hired Jimbo to begin with.
Yeah.
Because the only thing he had in his hat was winning a national championship with Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and even that was
And
that
that one,
situation was going downhill before. Yeah.
I will still say, and I will argue till kingdom come with this one, because that was the year of kick six. Okay. I still say that if Alabama goes to that championship over Auburn, FSU does not win that natty.
Yes, I mean that's an interesting point as well. And then I just had a couple more. This one goes specifically to Vandy fans. Okay, Vandy fans need some expectations because I think things are going to continue to get better. So hey, let's get those expectations going.
Wes, what
I know.
Have you been drinking? We've agreed not to drink before coming on the podcast. You're saying Drinky should be at Texas A&M, he'd do a better job, and now you're saying Vanderbilt fans should have expectations. What is this?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Look, I'm not saying Vandy's gonna change the world or anything, or they're gonna contend for the East next year. But I think Vandy fans should have some expectations. I think it's just become accepted for them to not have expectations. I mean, losing is just as much of a culture as winning, right? So I think it's time to kind of rethink things over there. I don't know. You never know.
I humbly disagree, but you do you, bud.
And then we've already mentioned it, but Auburn, they got the coach that was on their wish list, but now that all they need is some scruples. I'm just saying there as well.
Man, Wes came out here with a Gatling gun tonight, guys.
Hey, it is called Just for Fun, right? I mean, this is just all just for fun stuff. So
Auburn fans are about to be all up in your DM.
All right. Well, that does it for Just for Fun and our episode for bowl previews. If you would like to contact us, please do so. You can email us at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We are at Pigskins and Pageantry on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We are at PPSEC Podcast on Twitter. Don't forget we're available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. We are on Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment, subscribe, and review 5 stars. We would love that. It helps visibility, and we can continue to reach a larger audience, and we would appreciate that. So nice. So this is Wes. Lots of football to be watched. Lots of exciting games to come. Until next time, we'll holler at you guys in the new year. Go Dogs.
Thoughts and prayers are still with the Leach family during this time, and to all of the Mississippi State loyal. So as always, it's Roll Tide, but I think this season it's also going to be Roll State. Roll.
I don't think they roll, but we'll go with it, Jesse. Yeah, guys, it's bowl season, which means there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to watch. Gotta hope Tennessee finds a way to win that Orange Bowl. So go Balls.